What up, world? Welcome to the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, episode 115, New York Yankees update. I am your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and comfortable confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Substack, Patreon, Trovo, and as well as on Podbean. Looking to get out this weekend, looking to take your spouse out, have a great time with some friends, then look no further than the number one leading ticket seller and reseller in the world, StubHub. Number one seller in the world for live events, tickets, shows, and concerts, StubHub. Before we get into this episode, guys, I want to give you a couple details. We're going to detail the New York Yankees going in after the first month of baseball. Now that it being May 1st, they actually got the day off after their game yesterday against the Orioles, losing 4-5. But pretty much going to chronologize first month of the season, talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, what I liked from the team. Very excited to see that they're getting it done with pretty much patchwork pitching and, getting some of their bats back in time, and Aaron Judge pretty much tearing it up, and some of the free agents they signed, Paul Goldschmidt to be exact too. So a lot of things I definitely want to touch on this episode. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to some of the friends on the show. If you guys haven't noticed, or if you do know, if you're long-term fans of the show, or if you aren't and just started watching, one of the friends of the show is Sony PlayStation. I have a link in the description box of this video for Sony PlayStation Direct. If you're a PlayStation fan like myself, you've been playing since 1996, you want to get a new PlayStation 5, or you're looking to try to get some bundle packages or add on to what you have already, definitely look in the link in the description box of this video. Sony PlayStation, more than a game. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Thanks. Be that as it may, guys, like I said, I'm very excited to do this episode. This episode, again, is about the New York Yankees. Going into it, very crazy start, very topsy-turvy start to the season. They've had it all. I mean, they've had offensive explosion. They've had, games where the offense was stagnant. They had great pitching games, and they had games where the pitching was, complete fucking, detriment to the team. Defensive lapses, everything you can, throw in between there. So they've weathered the storm for the first month of the season. As I aforementioned previously in the beginning of this video, they did lose to the Orioles last night, 4-5. However, they are now 18-13. They're still number one in the AL East, so thank God for that. They're off today, so they have a game coming up tomorrow. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for the Yankees, because I do feel that, in this past series alone, they just made history, again, having three batters hit home runs, back to back to back, just had a great season so far offensively, been one of the best offenses in the major leagues. And that's without Juan Soto. So got to give kudos to the Yankees for that. The pitching, though, has ultimately been a problem. Yesterday, you got a game where the offense shows up, Aaron Judge, great home run, having a great season. If I'm looking here at my numbers here correctly, he's batting 42%. You got Grisham, who's batting, just a little under 30%, or right around 30%, 29 to be exact, but Goldschmidt 35%. You're getting good production from your offense. You even got Ben Rice giving you 26%. So your offense is, is getting there. You're doing it. Your pitching, though, has just been so inconsistent. And then, you get guys coming out, and you get Devin Williams come in. He plays well, and then, the rest of the guys just couldn't maintain. It was a shit show. But, that is something that could potentially derail this team. I am curious to see how they get some of these pitchers back healthy throughout the course of the next month or two. How many offensive guys, they get back, because it's going to be crucial for them, because I do think that they could weather the storm for another month or so. But I do think that it's crucial before the All-Star break that they get these bats and some of the major offensive pieces back. I mean, obviously you're not getting Garrett Cole back, but, you get Luis Gil back, possibly around the All-Star break a little bit after. You get Jonathan Luiziaga, I believe I may be butchering his last name, but you get him back within some point within the next couple weeks. So you have a chance where you can really do some damage. Got to give Carlos Carrasco credit. He's definitely hung his serve. He got the credit for the loss yesterday, which sucked, but he did do pretty. He has played pretty well in the pinstripes. But ultimately, Devin Williams, he's had a very, very, very crazy season. Devin Williams, I do know that he's still trying to acclimate himself, and I know that the New York media and the baseball media itself is very critical of guys, especially when they're choking early in the season, and it becomes an issue. Teams lose games, and it costs teams divisions and playoff seeding, for shit like that. But the point of the matter is, this guy's still finding his footing. I think it's still early in the season to be very judgmental. I mean, last night he had a very decent outing after 2 rocky starts, which led to his benching, them putting Luke Weaver and a combination of other guys in that closing spot. Something that, Boone has got to figure out, the pitching staff's got to figure out, because I like Luke Weaver. I mean, I don't think he could be the everyday closer, but you got to figure out a two-man combination there for that closer position, because Devin Williams, until he really gets, a firm footing, you can't rely on him. And then our defense has just been so fucking inconsistent at times this year, where it's remarkable that we have the record that we have. But I think it's just because we've scored so many points. But it shows you too, something that was an issue last year, and something that's potentially going to be an issue this year. They've won tight games, but last year it was an issue, and they've lost some tight games this year. So very interested to see how the Yankees figure this out. But again, month in, but lots to still foretell and see how things shake out. Getting Clark Schmidt back, I think, is major help, though. I think he is definitely a major, major contributor to this offense. I mean, hell, the last time excuse me for misspeaking. Last time the Yankees had a high pick in the MLB draft was 2017, and this guy was the pick. So I think Clark Schmidt is definitely going to be in a situation where they're going to have to, ease him back in. You don't want to force him back into the rotation, too fast, and he winds up re-injuring himself. You want to ease him back in, but they desperately need him. Not having Garrett Cole has been such a fucking detriment to the starting rotation. And the relievers is something you really would have thought they would have tried to resolve during the offseason. Just didn't work out the way I guess they wanted it to, but we'll see. It's still early. But the consistency of pitching is definitely going to be an issue. I'm hoping that it gets resolved soon, but remains to be seen. And like I said, as I previously stated, the Yankees are off today, but they will be playing the Rays starting tomorrow at 7:05 p.m. So definitely check that out. Max Fried will be on the mound. He'll be going up against, how do you say this gentleman's name here? I want to make sure I say his full name correctly. Ryan Pepo. So definitely make sure you check that out. Also, something else I wanted to touch on per The Athletic that I thought was definitely interesting of note. It talked about the homegrown talent that the Yankees have developed and how the Yankees have a history of always, going after big name players and recruiting big name free agents. But as of late, their strategy has really been, draft and develop homegrown talent. I thought it was a very amazing article. When you get a chance, I implore you guys to check it out. It's written by Ken Rosenthal. It was written on April 23rd, for The Athletic. But what I thought was, there's a lot of great nuggets in that article that Ken Rosenthal drops. He usually does. But what amazes me is, this is the Yankees. 2 major things that kind of came out of that article that shocked me, that kind of reminded me of how far we've come. One, this is the second reiteration of a young combination that they've tried to put together, a young stable of players they tried to put together. In the mid-2010s, it didn't really work out. Everybody remembers Greg Bird. Greg Bird didn't really work out. Gary Sanchez didn't work out. Miguel Andujar didn't work out. And Gleyber Torres obviously just left after this past season. Aaron Judge was the only guy that kind of worked out of that. So, that was a little bit rough. But, hey, you got Aaron Judge, so it did work out. But in this reiteration now, you got to kind of like what you're seeing because you think about it, you figure Judge, you figure you have Volpe, you have Oh, let me think here. Hold on. Drawing blank for a second. Because I remember I wrote this down. But essentially, yeah, because Luis Gill's not homegrown, but you got Will Warren, you have Clark Schmidt, you Oswald Peraza, and you got Oswaldo Cabrera. So essentially, and Jason Dominguez, of course. Got to give a shout out to Jason Dominguez. And the previously aforementioned Ben Rice. So you figure that's phenomenal, but when you realize that out of the 26 players they have on the roster, 8 of them are homegrown, that accounts for 31% of the Yankees roster. That's phenomenal. It's something I've always hoped that the Yankees would get to, is just building homegrown talent, not always seeking and pillaging, big name players from other rosters, because they learned that throughout the 2000s and 2010s. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Not everybody fits in the pinstripes. Not everybody fits in New York. So you have to be a special type of player to fit in New York. Going a bit further, though, I wanted to make sure that I touched on Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt has been having a phenomenal season. I think he hasn't really gotten the acclaim that he has had, and it's funny because when you're a veteran player, the caliber of a Paul Goldschmidt, well-talented, resume is, well-credentialed, and you're at 37 years old, you're at this 10-year career, people kind of expect you to kind of not be as good as you once were, or maybe even as valuable as you once were. I don't know, but I know this much. This man has been electric. I mean, he has been electric for the New York Yankees, and I've just been ecstatic. So far this season, in 118 at-bats, he's batting 35%, 2 home runs, 13 RBIs, 1 stolen base. He has an OPS of 87%, so no complaints there. No complaints there. Definitely money well served, money well spent by Brian Cashman. This is definitely a resurgence by Goldschmidt. I think that I think he can continue this type of play, playing in that ballpark, playing in a lineup there. I mean, I didn't even mention Cody Bellinger, but this is just, something where I definitely think this team is going to put themselves in a position where offensively they could carry themselves to some wins. It's going to, again, rely and come down to that damn pitching being more stable for this team to truly contend and win possibly the World Series this year. But that's going to do it for this Yankees update. I love you guys as always. Don't forget to hit that like, share, subscribe button. Like I said, I don't know where you guys are, but it's May 1st where I'm May 1st, 2025, where I'm at. So wherever you are, happy May Day. Take care, be safe, whether you're at work, home, or on vacation, and continue to plug in. And I'll have another update coming for you in another week or so. And definitely stay tuned for the next NFL update. I have an NFL post-draft episode coming up. So definitely stay plugged in for that. Love you guys. Take care.